Our daily call to action for justice for Bilkis Bano continues on the Mojo Story. I'm Barkha Dutt, and we are grateful to so many of you for joining our campaign on the travesty of justice that has taken place in Gujarat. Remember and remember again and again that this was a pregnant woman, 5 months pregnant, gang raped. Her mother was gang raped, her sisters were gang raped, and her 3-year-old daughter Saliha was murdered, smashed with a stone. Like we said, we've been running a relentless campaign, and before we introduce our guest today, and you can see her there, Lalitha Kumaramangalam, BJP leader, also former head of the National Commission for Women, we are asking all of you to join our people-led campaign for justice for Bilkis Bano. And we're saying, let's raise hell, because if we make noise, maybe the institutions will listen. India's top judges have been speaking out. Justice Gupta, who awarded Bilkis Bano compensation in 2019, called the decision to release a rapist immoral, unjust, and unfair. Justice Salvi, who was the trial court that first convicted these men, told us it is a very bad precedent. It is a revolt against the judicial apparatus. This is the judge who first sent these men to jail for life. Remember, they have been released after 14 years. Justice Madan Lukur is saying that the decision is shocking and it's unclear at which level and under which law specifically was it approved. Was the trial court judge on board? Was the center on board? We simply don't know. And in the meantime, we have what changed the course of the story. The BJP MLA on the panel that recommended the release telling Mojo Story that these men are Brahmins of good sanskar. That interview going viral and I think pretty much changing how we are looking at this story today. Asha Devi, the mother of Nirbhaya, telling us that ye aadmi agar itne sanskari the to rape kiya kyun, reminding us that this crime actually qualified for the death sentence, so that the least should have happened was that these men should have remained in jail for life. Do join our campaign. There's a link you'll find in the description. It's to sign a petition that appeals to the Supreme Court to send these men back to jail. Let's bring up now Lalitha Kumaramangalam, leader of the BJP, former head of the National Commission for Women, one of the, I would say, rare women in the BJP who's been speaking up. And in fact, Lalitha, I have to start by thanking you for actually sticking to your principles and speaking up. What made you do it? Because, you know, one of the things that makes politics such a difficult business is that sometimes you have to suppress what you think, what you feel, because your larger organization, and it can be any party, hasn't taken the position that you want them to take. What made you break your silence on Bilkis Bano?
Barkha, insofar as any issues to do with women, I've never been known for my silence. Even when I was head of the NCW, I think I have repeatedly said that issues that have to do with women's safety or women's equality or women's even equal opportunity should not be politicized. The moment politics comes into it, the issue gets thrown out of the window and we are back where we started, which is God only knows where, in some patriarchal domain that is peopled by both men and women. So something as heinous as rape, and according to me, any rape is heinous. We keep giving them different shades and colors. Any rape is heinous. It doesn't matter who is the perpetrator, regardless of whatever differences or classifications or whatever words one wants to use in this regard. Rape is rape. And this was not just rape. This was two. This was rape and murder, two crimes. And quite frankly, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't, pretend to understand what went into the whole, how this entire decision came about. Now, of course, after the outrage that has been expressed by people all across the country, everybody is scrambling to, for cover and saying this is not my fault, that is not my fault, etc. But quite frankly, and I said this the first day on Rajdeep's show, that the system has let this poor girl down. Rape follows a woman for her whole life, and somehow or the other, somebody or the other will turn around and twist it to look like it is poor Bilkis's fault. Where she was, why she was there, why was she dressed, why was this happening, who asked her to do this? No, those people, they didn't do it, allegedly. They did not do it intentionally. And all of that is just blah, blah, blah. Once it is done, that means the person who has done it is a rapist. And the poor person who has been raped is the victim.
Okay,
How
here
can you say that? Yeah, how
sorry.
can you say that this is justice?
Yeah.
In fact, it is already the central government had said in 2014 that murder and rape should not come under this 14-year thing where they say 14 is life. 14 is not life. Now imagine what this poor girl is going through again. Your own community will let you down, your own family will let you down, people who may be very nice to you otherwise will look at you with accusation, with pity, with all of it. How will she even ever lead a normal life? And this is true for every rape victim. So
Well, I'll
to
tell
say
you,
somebody is sanskari, all of this is nonsense.
yeah, and I'll come to all of this bit by bit, and I'll tell you the most moving part of this travesty has actually been the role of Bilkis Bano's husband Yaqub, who has stood with her like a rock. And one of the things he told me, in fact, about this normalcy of life was, he said, "Abhi to humne shuru kiya tha dobara jeena," because it was in
Exactly.
2019 that the Supreme Court awarded what they called exemplary compensation. Now, having known you for years, Lalitha, I know that you speak your mind on women's issues. But here, there are two things that are different. You say everyone's clamoring for cover. You're right. There are many things we still don't know. Who approved, who didn't approve, whose approval was sought, we don't know. But
Yeah.
what we do know are two things. We know the Supreme Court, when one of these convicts went to the Supreme Court, referred it back to the Gujarat government. We know the
Yes.
Gujarat government sets up a panel. We know the panel recommends the release of these men. And then we know these men come out of prison and they're given laddus and garlands. This much we know
Yeah.
because this is all facts. Now,
Yeah.
effectively, would you urge the Gujarat government, which has your party in power, all they have to do is take this back. All they have to do is say, we made a mistake. Would you want them to do that?
Absolutely. Unequivocally, yes. But then I'd also like to ask the Supreme Court under what, how did they send it to the Gujarat government? I want to know why. The Supreme Court has, a bench full of very learned and very experienced justices. Okay, my lords, as we call them, your honor, as we call them, they must have seen many, many cases of rape through their judicial careers and before that as practicing lawyers. Now, how on earth did they even refer something like this to an administrative, basically an administrative body? Governments are administrative bodies. Isn't this a matter of law? Which is why I say the whole system has let her down. Now, if you want me to comment on this whole Garland thing, I'd already commented on it. It's ludicrous. It's extremely insensitive. If they really want to garland them, they should have done it in their own houses, not in public like this. It's almost ugly, to do this sort of thing in public. It's just not correct. It's totally wrong. But that aside, that's a minor part. The whole thing is, how on earth did the system work in such a wrong way that this even happened? This is not something that should have happened. And I think every woman will agree that once you are raped, you cannot, the person who has done it, people, whatever, 100, 200, whatever is not the point. You cannot in any way justify it saying that, I've spent 14 years in jail. Now I'm sorry for it. Now I want to come out. What happens to that poor child? 14 years later, a child, girl, woman, her whole life again goes into another turmoil. So, there is too much, it's almost immoral to me because, the rest of it is just words, it's just noise.
Yeah, but you've raised two important points. You unequivocally want the Gujarat government to take this back, and you want to know how the Supreme Court even referred it to the Gujarat government to begin with. Two important questions.
As a layman, Barkha, I'd also like to know, and this is a very honest question, it has now gone back to the Supreme Court. Yesterday they said we are not at fault, etc. Can't the Supreme Court step in now? They are, after all, the apex court of the country. I don't know the law, which is why I'm asking. This is a very genuine layperson.
I am understanding from all of the judges that I have been interviewing that the Supreme Court is now will have to give a hearing to these men who have been released before it makes a suo moto intervention. It will also have to test. It will also have to test the legality of the process that it in itself initiated. But may I remind you that while yes, we are disappointed that the Supreme Court referred this to Gujarat, Gujarat had the power to say no. That 11-member panel had the power and the full authority to say no. And they could have just simply said no.
And they didn't, which is wrong. Yeah. All the other words, like I said, is noise. There is right and there is wrong. This is wrong.
And on this platform, it was that a party colleague of yours, Mr. Raulji, told my colleague Ashish Ramola very normally. He was in fact, I think he's quite perplexed that people are angry with him. He said two things. He said, "Crime hua ya nahi, pata nahi kisne kiya, mujhe nahi malum," questioning the guilt. Secondly, he said in the now viral comment, "Achhe aadmi the, Brahmin hai, men of good sanskars." Now the point is, this is a BJP legislator on the panel. I'm saying BJP because there are BJP legislators only on the panel along with other people. He happens to be a BJP legislator. He was with the Congress till a few years ago, for the record. And he says this, and he's a man who recommended the release. So it makes you question the credibility of this panel that recommended the release of these men.
Yes, it does. And what do you mean by sanskar? Which Hindu sanskar or any religious sanskar, I don't know enough about other religions, says that you can rape a woman and it is sanskari? It's ridiculous. If you are sanskari people, and why does caste come into this now? First of all, religion has been pulled into it. Why does caste come into it? Sanskar has nothing to do with caste. Sanskar has had to do with the way, what you believe in, the way you behave, the way you act. Your actions speak louder than any sort of words when it comes to things like sanskar. So, which sanskar says rape is sanskari? Across the board, I'd like to ask this question.
Absolutely.
So that is, I think, an off-the-cuff, very silly remark that should never have been made by a legislator. Unfortunately, we have too many male people, politicians and female also, let me say now, that who make these off-the-cuff, almost careless remarks they don't think deeply enough about. And then when there is a furor and people, start criticizing them, they act all bewildered, or they perhaps are genuinely bewildered because they don't even understand the importance of what they should not have said.
I mean, we are dealing with two things here. We're dealing with entrenched patriarchy, and we all deal with it.
Yeah.
We all deal with it in our
spaces. On a daily basis, we deal with it. Yeah.
But one, I'm very glad that you have urged the Gujarat government to take back this decision. You've condemned the comments by the panel. My question now is a political one. I agree with you that I'm so sick of women's bodies becoming battlefields for one or the other party. I couldn't care less about it. The campaign we are running, we're asking to everybody to think, there is politics, and we can discuss this in another context on another program, but not right now, where the priority has to be to get these men to go back to jail. However, Lalitha, do you feel that you're lonely in your own party right now? This could happen in another party also to another woman. So again, this is not a comment about one party or the other. I can count 3 people in the BJP, please correct me if I'm wrong, who have taken a public position on this, 2 women and 1 man. Devendra Fadnavis, who said that the felicitation of these men was unacceptable. Yourself, Khushbu Sundar, both from Tamil Nadu. And I mean, I'm just commenting on that as a matter of detail. I do not, and this is a party which has women in key positions of power. This is a party that gave us a woman defense minister. I still remember that iconic image of Nirmala Sitharaman and the military chiefs. Are you disappointed? Where are the women of the BJP?
Barkha, I am disappointed generally with the world at large, and I have been for many years when it comes to issues like women. I have been a single woman for the last 30 years. I have 2 daughters. I have seen what happens to women who dare to go against or even try to swim against the tide. And I have seen how they can be isolated, targeted, many other words can be used. Of course, I'm disappointed that more women politicians have not come out, not only of my own party, but I think across the board, and unequivocally, without bringing politics into it, said that we must stand by this unfortunate woman, and do what we can to see that not only is justice done to her, but so many others like her who have already been through the sort of who has been at the receiving end of a very rotten system, and who will continue to be at the receiving end of that rotten system. The system doesn't seem to stop being rotten. Yeah. We are now in 2022. Nirbhaya was so many years back. Even today, we are seeing that women who have been raped for whatever reason, and all reasons are nonsense. I mean, rape should never happen regardless, full stop. Despite context, despite whatever people may try and explain it away with, we are still seeing the same old ghisa pita, as we say in Hindi, scenario being played out. where the victim is again the person who's being questioned, who's being doubted, who's being, in many ways, in many very subtle ways, almost being sidelined, and where she's just not allowed to carry on with her life. One has to get on with life despite everything. Every individual deserves the opportunity, the chance to be able to live a normal life. How can you do it when something like this happens? And this child was not just raped or gang raped. She lost a child.
Yeah.
She lost actually two.
She was gang raped. Her mother was gang raped. Her sisters were gang raped, and she and the mother were made to forced to watch the others rape. And then her child was murdered in front of her as she lay bleeding on the ground.
Yeah. So how rape and murder are both non-cognizable, non-bailable offenses, etc. These guys have actually been put away in jail. They've been found guilty. They're two back-to-back sentences, which is 14 plus 14 years. From my non-legal background, I'm not able to understand how this whole thing even came about. In a civilized society, and the whole world claims to be today in 2022, we are looking at Mars and beyond that using one of the biggest telescopes ever been made, etc. But back home, this is still happening.
Yeah.
What sort of progress is this?
Finally, before we close, what would you like to see your own party and the political establishment at large be doing at this point? The court is already cognizant of the matter. It is going to be a slow process that unravels there. In the meantime, what would you urge your fellow politicians to be doing at this time?
I think today the best thing all politicians across the board could do is to not condemn or not prevent or not influence anybody who will be or is seen to be or is actually trying to set things right in this case. Whether it is politically, whether it is through other through the media, whether it is through personal discussions or whatever it is, I don't know the various ramifications of these things. But I would like people to now understand that this is a time when, the need is for social, we need to put society first, not individuals, not organizations, regardless of what organizations they may be, not even our own feelings. You need to be able to live in a society. You need to have certain rules that must be followed. And I would like to see everybody concerned, including political parties and my own party and the media and lawyers and everybody, activists, etc., etc. Let the Supreme Court do a proper job of actually righting this wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how they'll do it. But
I would underline that the Supreme Court, of course, we hope will do it, but actually the government in Gujarat could do it just as well. I don't know the legality that now if it's in the Supreme Court, can they or can they not? But I wish they had never allowed it to happen. Lalitha Kumaramangalam,
yes.
Thank you. I think your pet is calling out to you and needs you now. But in any case, thank you for speaking up and being literally, as I said, one of the 3 people in your party who has I won't say broken ranks, but has shown the courage and the spine to take a public position. Thank you very much and take care.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.